Sometimes an event happens that everyone talks about, discusses, argues over, and then forgets about in record time. And sometimes no one really pays much attention to it. Well, some experts made some noise, discussed it, and it seems like no one else should really care. But our understanding of life changes, or sometimes our whole life changes, and an era is measured as before and after that moment. Yes, one of those events happened recently, and we're starting to feel, as they say, the Earth's echo from yet another change in the world. We've seen changes in our understanding of the world. So, Egypt 2025 Giza, not Gaza, the pyramids. But wait, something very big and, in my opinion, incredibly important is about to happen. The pyramids in Giza have always amazed people. There are 3 pyramids there, and now something has been discovered that has shocked researchers. Just absolute shock. Over the next 15 minutes, you will learn a lot of truly extraordinary things that could turn our understanding of history, possibly thousands of years old, in a completely different direction. But first, what did we know and what surprised us before? The argument and then the discovery of the millennium. The Great Pyramid of Khufu consists of 2.5 million blocks that had to be quarried somewhere, extracted, transported to the construction site, and placed on top of the already set blocks. And the weight of the blocks, which had to be dragged and lifted, so to speak, well, to an absolutely enormous height, well, they weighed up to 15 tons. Who moved them, how, when, and how were they lifted? Why was it easier for builders in the Bronze Age to move 15-ton blocks than, say, to stack smaller stones and seal them with something? Did they have helicopters, cranes, dump trucks? Or did they have something else? Or maybe people were of a different size or strength? Next, the foundation of these 2.5 million blocks is leveled with an accuracy of a few millimeters, and the platform is not that big. Yes, the base of the pyramid stands on an area of 52,000 square meters. Just so you understand, that's about 8 football fields. The Sphinx, which stands next to the Pyramid of Khafra, they call it the Pyramid of Khafre, has suffered from the effects of nature. But even though it's in the middle of the desert, there are traces of water erosion on it. If that's true, then it means it was created long before the Great Flood and spent a long time underwater. Egyptologists claim that it was created in 2500 before Christ, which means about 4,500 years ago. They don't have any exact dates, they just decipher various drawings, letters, hieroglyphs, and other things, and then say what it means. We understand it as if it was made back then, but from my point of view, these drawings could have been added 2,500 years after they built it. All right, people argue with them. It is carved from a single block that's 20 meters high, and its length is 73 meters. Nothing like this has survived anywhere else in the world, absolutely nowhere, and we ourselves don't make anything like this. But then where does the effect of water come from? Water, not sun or sand, but water. Maybe it was actually created 100,000 years ago, 1,000 years before the Sphinx was made. Well, if you believe it, then this version started to develop. The first culture of our civilization is called the Sumerian, with the first cities, each of which you know, around the temple of one of the gods of the pantheon, the supreme god Anu, as he is sometimes called, and his wife, the goddess of love, war, and power, Iana, or Inanna in another pronunciation. Later in Egypt, she came to be called Ishtar. They were, the patrons of the city called Uruk. The Sumerians called An himself and his family by that name, so El when it means supreme or upper, or when there were many of them, the whole family. Elohim, meaning, well, there are many supreme ones, the upper ones. This El later turned into the god Gad, so to speak, and already appears in the Bible, in the Old Testament, in the Torah as, so to speak, El Elohim. Meaning now, as we understand, not this very En, but, so to speak, someone else. So this very En and his wife Inanna, they didn't live on Earth. They lived on another planet. Nibiru, which orbited the sun on a so-called cometary, not planetary, but cometary elliptical orbit. That is, it means very far away, then back close to the sun, then again very far away, then close to the sun again, and so on. So it moved along an ellipse as if traveling this way. Yes, every 3,000 years it returns to Earth and then, again, flies away for 3,000 years. That is, for 1,500 years it flies. Then it turns around there and it starts being pulled back. And the two sons of this very En, one legitimate son from, that is, Inanna, his name was Enlil, and one son from, if I remember the legend correctly, from a concubine, his name was Enki. They were sent to the land they called Eridu, which means, translated from Semitic languages like Sumerian and so on, a home far from home, that is, they called the earth a home far from home. Neslava were the first people on Earth, that is, those who created the first, society there and lived an organized life. They had animals, which they used there for meat, milk, and so on, for wool. But before the flood, there were Sumerians on Earth who learned to build, play musical instruments, calculate complex mathematical formulas, and even, modify the genetics of plants and animals. There was a period when, from Sumerian, Mesopotamia, let's call it Mesopotamia, several grains emerged, which clearly, like wheat, for example, it's not wild wheat. It was domesticated by someone, meaning its genetics were altered, so it's just complete science fiction. Of course, where did the Sumerians get this knowledge? Who taught them? Well, it's clear that someone taught them. And they always call this god, that is El, so to speak, and his people, they are, so to speak, messengers and angels. They're called angels in Russian and English, but in Hebrew they're not truly angels, just those sent by God to deliver messages. So there were these Sumerians who spoke a language similar to Hebrew and Aramaic. It seems like it's a variant of Hebrew, or maybe Hebrew is a variant of Aramaic. I'm not much of an expert in this field, but these are sort of natural languages. Actually, the first three pyramids, the ones in Giza, yes, which are located in Giza, and the Sphinx itself, the Sumerians, whether they built them or if the Egyptians built them after the Sumerians, or maybe someone built them even before the Sumerians, but according to the Sumerian legend, whatever they built, they did it all under the guidance of these beings, as they called them. So the Anunnaki, meaning the crew from the alien ship under the command of the Upper El, or the Supreme Ones, maybe, the Sumerians called all of them with such an interesting word, Nephilim, meaning the fallen ones. Lipol means to fall, so Nephilim means the fallen. Like those who fell from the sky, they fell from the heavens. And now some of them ruled, some helped, some led. But human society emerged as a society and was formed, and so on and so forth, under. If we call those people, if they really are called Anunnaki, that is, as people, then under the leadership of these very Anunnaki, so these very pyramids and the half-lion, half-human, that is, a lion with a human head. By the way, it's possible that this is the symbol of the Supreme God, this very ANU, and it caused a sensation in modern archaeology. And now we've actually come to the essence of our conversation, the core of our story.
You see a gigantic cultural monument of global significance, which will stand frozen in time and amaze people for tens of thousands of years. Thousands of years have passed since then. People today see the pyramids and say, it's hard to believe people built this. There is reason to believe that these structures were built using some kind of fantastic technology. From the outside, it seems that the Great Pyramids are just huge stone triangles that people just stacked heavy blocks on top of each other, and that's it. In reality, its construction seems too perfect to be true. The pyramids consist of over 2 million stone blocks. They are arranged so tightly and evenly that even a thin sheet of paper can't fit between them.
For thousands of years, we didn't know who built what we see, why, or how. But it turned out there's another part we don't see, and that's the part that's truly baffling. By scanning from above and using the latest imaging technologies, scientists discovered that beneath the pyramids of Giza, there is something that amazed them.
8 huge spiral shafts going 648 meters under the Pyramid of Khafre. Underground halls bigger than 25-story buildings, ancient tunnels that make modern subways look primitive. The pyramid we've been looking at for millennia is just the tip of the iceberg. What we're about to learn will overturn 400 to 500 years of history and everything we know about archaeology. I am Carol Ann. Welcome to the world, the interworld.
A tunnel, some pillars like elevator shafts, huge halls underground, an entire city. All of this with unclear purpose and construction was seen here. So, well, what is called tomography, yes, so to speak. I don't know how to call it more precisely. I mean, it's like an X-ray from space. I apologize, for God's sake, for being such an uneducated person.
Yes, most of you, I'm sure, are well acquainted with how a traditional radar works, which emits signals and then measures exactly how they reflect and come back. Synthetic aperture radar, or synthetic aperture radar, is a specialized technology that uses electromagnetic waves from a satellite in space to perform the same function. Synthetic aperture radar was developed around the 1950s, and since then it has been used for mapping everything from military surveillance and measuring waves of deforestation to monitoring the structural integrity of bridges and dams. It achieved an archaeological breakthrough by uniquely mapping large underground structures in regions like the Maya lowlands, southern Mexico, and northern Guatemala, as well as Angkor Wat in Cambodia, where the vegetation was so dense that nothing could be seen. But this team developed a technology that doesn't just read reflected electromagnetic waves to search for physical structures. It detects tiny vibrations. Everything on Earth vibrates at some level, from the wind, from nearby transportation, from the constant microseismic background vibrations of the Earth itself. Most of these vibrations are so small that we don't feel them, but they are there. A satellite radar can detect these tiny vibrations on the surface of the pyramid, and by analyzing how these vibrations travel through the structure, researchers can map what is inside and beneath it.
I apologize for this engineering digression, but otherwise it would be hard to understand what happened.
Near the base of the Khafre Pyramid, 5 identical structures were discovered, each with 5 horizontal levels and sloped roofs, all connected by perfectly straight geometric pathways. These are not natural formations. It seems they are intentionally designed spaces with precise dimensions and layout, which, in my opinion, look exactly like that Z-shaped formation from the Khufu Pyramid. But this is just the very beginning. Beneath these surface structures, scans reveal 8 cylindrical formations that appear to be vertical hollow shafts, each surrounded by something spiral-shaped going down into the earth. Imagine it like this. 8 huge corkscrews burrowing deep into the ground, arranged in 2 parallel rows running from north to south, right beneath the base of the pyramid. According to these researchers, the depth of these shafts reaches 640. Could you imagine that? The Empire State Building is 443 meters tall, the Eiffel Tower is only 330 meters, and we're talking about structures that are almost twice as tall as the Eiffel Tower, going straight down into the ground, built thousands of years ago. At this extreme depth, the 8 wells seem to merge into 2 huge cubic structures, each about 80 meters. So,
3 pyramids and the Sphinx stand above something for reasons that are unclear. But Parallel to them are 8 such tunnels similar to elevator shafts, as I already mentioned, and the tunnels end in an even more deeply hidden room. Some huge one, actually 2 rooms. Sorry, yes, both are square, each side is 80 meters. I mean the height, sorry, like a 25-story building. A skyscraper. But that's not all.
Synthetic aperture radar scanning also revealed an extensive underground complex, which is believed to extend as deep as 2 kilometers or 1.2 miles beneath the entire Giza plateau.
And this enormous structure is located 2 kilometers beneath the pyramids, 2 kilometers deep into the earth. If confirmed, this would completely change our understanding of the origins of our civilization. 1960.
That would mean that what we see on the surface in Giza, as impressive as it may be, it could literally be just the tip of the iceberg and the entrance to something much more extraordinary. The main question, of course, is what was all this for? If these structures exist, as researchers claim, what was their purpose? The traditional point of view is that the pyramids were essentially elaborate tombs, monuments for storing the remains of pharaohs and helping them on their journey to the afterlife. But if these findings are confirmed, then such an explanation seems completely unsatisfactory. Who would build an underground complex at a depth of more than 1.5 kilometers and just for burials? The researchers themselves have rather controversial theories. Based on their findings at both pyramids, they suggest that the structures were not tombs at all, but complex machines that used water and acoustic properties for some as yet unknown purpose.
So, in the underground, 2 kilometers below the desert, sorry, not below sea level, 2 kilometers under the desert, I don't know if that's the same as sea level or not. Factories were hidden there. Factories. What were they for and why were they hidden? From whom were they hidden and for what purpose?
3,000 years? As for Khafren's specific structures, parallels were drawn with modern constructions, such as the active zones of nuclear reactors that use water for cooling, as well as offshore oil platforms. Their cylindrical supports go deep into the water, which helps us imagine how these ancient structures might have functioned. The spiral passages around the cylindrical shafts could have been part of a complex system for controlling or utilizing underground water resources. The Giza Plateau lies near the Nile River, where groundwater levels have changed over thousands of years. Could these deep shafts have been made to access underground water, possibly for ritual or practical use? Evidence suggests water played a key role in ancient Egyptian structures. Researchers have found signs of water erosion in the passages and chambers of various pyramids. The nearby Sphinx shows similar signs of water erosion, which have puzzled geologists for decades.
As I told you, the Sphinx and parts of the pyramid were underwater for a long time. So it seems that before the flood, that is, even before the flood, they were already standing and were created for some purpose along with the underground part. Well, it's clear that the underground part wasn't built after the flood. And then the planet Nibiru passed close to Earth. Well, remember I told you, yes, so to speak, it's comet-like, so to speak, far, far away. And then it comes close to Earth, under the Earth. Then it goes far away again. And then once more, so to speak, above the Earth, it passes and actually orbits the Sun. Well, we also get caught along the way, so it passed quite close and its gravity caused a flood, and it seems like everything got flooded.
Ancient texts detail how boats were used for funeral processions to the pyramids. And that's even though today this complex itself is several miles away from the Nile River. Geological evidence shows the Nile River's course has changed greatly over millennia and possibly even earlier. It came right up to the place where the pyramids now stand. The ancient Egyptians were known for their advanced hydraulic engineering. They built complex irrigation systems, water clocks, and other hydraulic devices.
It seems they learned this from Joseph, the son of Jacob, who proposed a new irrigation system to Egypt after the pharaoh had a dream, well, according to legend, had a dream. So the dream of 7 fat cows symbolized abundant harvest there for 7 years. And then the dream was of 7 thin cows and withered ears of grain. symbolizing, as it were, 7 years of terrible famine. After that, Yosef, it seems, invented an underground water storage and underground granaries, where for 7 years they stored 1/5 of the harvest each year. 1/5 is called Hamishia. We know this word already because not all Jews, not all slaves left Egypt later. Only the Hamishia left. That is, the 20 Jews who were in Egypt at that time left, while the rest stayed in Egypt and assimilated. So the ancient Egyptians, at least in some sense, are, so to speak, a product of Egyptian blood. I don't even know what kind of blood they have. And Sibite, Jewish blood. So in this way, because Yosef created these storehouses and water supplies and all that, the Egyptians survived. And they even had enough to sell and trade with the neighboring peoples who didn't have these supplies. Otherwise, they would have died of hunger.
The pyramids of Giza were almost certainly built thousands of years earlier than traditional Egyptology claims would like us to believe. Let's be clear. The dating of the pyramids to around 2500 before Christ was never based on direct physical evidence. It was established mainly through cultural assumptions and interpretations of hieroglyphic texts, many of which were translated much later. The structures themselves tell a completely different story. The traces of weathering on the Sphinx, which is located right next to the Pyramid of Khafre, show clear signs of water erosion that could only have occurred when there was heavy rainfall in the region. According to climatologists, this kind of precipitation last occurred in Egypt about 10 to 12,000 years ago. This moves the construction of the Sphinx back many thousands of years before the beginning of dynastic Egypt. These recently discovered spiral wells descending 648 meters beneath Khafre add significant weight to this alternative chronology. Such deep structures would extend far below the current groundwater level, which means they could only have been built when sea levels were significantly lower. Those were the same conditions during the last ice age, which ended around 11,700 years ago.
The Great Flood is not mentioned, but it apparently occurred sometime around 3,800 to 3,200 before Christ, which is about 5,500 to 6,000 years ago, counting from today. What fits into this concept? Another interesting coincidence in the dates.
The destruction of Atlantis, according to Plato's detailed description, happened around 9,600 before Christ, right when the Ice Age was ending and catastrophic floods were reshaping coastlines all over the world. The Risha structure in Mauritania, with its concentric rings that perfectly match Plato's description, is located just 350 miles from the coast of North Africa. Could the engineers of this now destroyed civilization have brought their advanced technological knowledge to the Nile Valley? There is increasing evidence that they did, or that someone else did. These underground structures beneath Khafre may be the most compelling evidence that an advanced civilization settled in Egypt thousands of years before the first pharaohs. Their sophisticated understanding of hydraulics and astronomy was gradually inherited by later Egyptian cultures who built their structures on these ancient foundations. Official archaeology continues to resist these conclusions, but with each new discovery, their position becomes harder and harder to defend if these findings are confirmed. The colossal scale and incredible precision of these underground structures force us to seriously reconsider not only what their builders knew, but also when they lived and who they really were. These statements naturally sparked very heated debates. Many Egyptologists question whether synthetic aperture radar technology is truly capable of reliably detecting structures at such extreme depths, while others point out that these findings contradict millennia of Egyptian burial traditions and textual evidence. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities has not yet made an official statement, which indicates their caution. Before accepting such revolutionary claims, I'm sure that more evidence will have to be provided before they are ready to accept it, which generally speaking is quite logical. The main thing is they don't delay conducting more tests. However, what's interesting about using the synthetic aperture radar Doppler method is that it's carried out from an orbital satellite by a private company in a completely non-invasive way. That's why the Egyptian government simply cannot agree to this. And I think And this is just my assumption for now until we learn more, but it seems to me that the researchers from this team are presenting this discovery directly to the public, completely bypassing the usual process of reviewing archaeological findings. And I really like that.
I've said many times that some of the people who lack critical thinking and intellectual honesty the most are professional scientists. Well, so to speak, right now I don't want to touch on technical disciplines where things are tested by the scientific method, and it's either yes or no, either it's verified or it's not. I'm talking more about doctors, historians, philosophers, and psychologists. That is, well, usually they are terribly rigid people and completely lack even basic honesty. I'm not saying everyone is like that. It's just what I've experienced. There are a couple hundred of them, and I would say that 198 of them fit that description. It's important to them, especially doctors, by the way, that it's not about seeking the truth, but about the benefits they receive. And if they receive them, it's for pro-lawyer reasons. If I forgot something else, yes. I don't even want to open my mouth about this. If they receive these benefits for hiding the truth, then they are hiding it. That's what happened with Giordano Bruno, whose theory threatened to expose their ignorance, and also the famous discovery by Semmelweis in Vienna that the cause of death in maternity wards was microorganisms that doctors and nurses transferred from one patient to another. So all the doctors suddenly united to make sure no one found out that they were the killers. The doctors, already knowing about this, refused to wash their hands after treating infectious patients, then delivered babies. As you can imagine, both mother and child would die. Well, vile creatures from today, so to speak, and from our own time, lie to us for money, for fame, and for honor. They talk about the causes and effects of global warming now, or before that it was global cooling, and now, just in case, they say climate change, because they have no idea whatsoever what is actually going to happen with it. Let's call it something like warm cooling or cool warming. They don't care at all. As long as they get money and honors, they'll say whatever you want, absolutely anything you want, and they'll even lie to their own family. Well, I've seen that too, but it didn't end there. No, it didn't end there now. So every day, now they keep finding new and new structures, new branches, in the pyramids of Giza.
This morning, an important new discovery was made inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. For the first time, looking through the giant chevrons above the main entrance allowed a precise analysis and accurate description of the North Corridor.
For more than 4,500 years, we thought the Great Pyramid had revealed all its secrets, but we were wrong. A scanning failure has just revealed a hidden shaft that no one was supposed to find, and what lies below has caused panic among archaeologists, physicists, and even military insiders. And during the investigation, as we went deeper and deeper into the pyramid, things kept getting stranger and stranger. A sealed chamber, a humming frequency. This incredible architectural achievement is the skeleton,
which is older than Egypt itself and the basalt vault that won't open until the heavens align. To build pyramids of such a grand scale, they had to create an entire infrastructure, and we've found its trace.
This isn't just another story about a tomb. It changes everything about ancient Egypt, and possibly about the very history of humanity. A secret shaft meant to stay hidden. It began with a scan malfunction. Scientists from the Scan Pyramids mission, using muon tomography, a method that tracks cosmic particles to map dense structures, discovered a strange void beneath the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza. At first, they thought it was a mistake, but multiple scans conducted by Nagoya University in Japan and the French Commissariat à l'Énergie Atomique confirmed it. A hidden vertical shaft under this ancient monument. When searching for archaeological finds, anything found inside the pyramid is a major discovery. An unusual cavity. It was perfectly straight, going down more than 30 feet, expanding into a chamber. This was completely undocumented in Egyptian or architectural records, and that fact alone shocked the world of Egyptology.
An ancient race of earthlings built this, or the Anunnaki, those who fell to earth from the sky. Something operating on a level. of the ocean floor, about 2 kilometers below the desert surface. These are the same guys who later led the slaves out of Egypt, gave them manna from heaven and the 10 Commandments. Or is it from the depths of ages before us, before our ancestors, before Homo sapiens? It shows how much we still don't know about the chunk of frozen gas we live on. And the moon rotates on its axis in the same amount of time it takes to orbit the Earth, so we never see that side. Without the moon, life on Earth most likely wouldn't have developed. Why? And does the moon stabilize the tilt of Earth's axis? The mysteries of the moon are really astonishing. According to a Sumerian legend, the planet Tiamat, the Mother of Waters, which orbited the sun, was split apart by an impact. Nibiru, which came from outer space, created 2 parts. 99% of the mass is now Earth, and about 1% is the moon. And Nibiru, which came from deep space, changed its trajectory after the impact and got stuck in the solar system. I don't know if they liked it here or not. But that was 4.5 million years ago, and I suspect that no one who was on Nibiru at that time survived this event. So there's no one to ask, you might say. What do I care about what happened 4.5 million years ago? And I'll answer you. You're right. If you're not interested in this, then I'm afraid you're just not interested. There's also a lot more that makes our lives full, dynamic, and every day a day of new things. Discovery. It seems to me that there are only 2 types of people. Some are, let's say, intellectually curious, inquisitive, and then there are passers-by. Well, let the passers-by just pass by. I'm not interested in them and even less interested in their opinions. You might ask, about what? And I'll tell you, about nothing at all. I'm not interested in the opinions of passers-by. My book, Capitalism 101, will still be available for another week. I said I would take it down by December 31, but we suddenly found out that the footnote link under my video wasn't working. That's what they told me. Apparently it happens sometimes. I don't really understand this stuff myself. It was working fine, then suddenly started redirecting to the wrong page. A lot of people went there, tried it, and didn't get the book. Well, I apologize for that. And for another week, until January 10th, it will be there with the correct link. So the book is free, and as a bonus, there will be short videos with my 10-minute video programs. The roadmap to freedom will be sent free of charge. And after the 10th, I'll put up another book, In Search of You. Well, we'll see what happens next. If you haven't done it yet, go and download it. It's worth reading, it'll be fun, and I think it's very interesting. That's all for now. Goodbye until next time, to be continued.